Well, we're just waiting for a few people to sign in. It takes always a little bit of time before technically everybody can join, and then I will welcome everyone. Okay, gently, people are connecting. I think some with microphones, some without. I think everybody's automatically muted, so that's very good for noise reduction. Okay, so I think that's everybody signed in. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for another live chat with insights from the MBA program. Last time, we were joined by Professors Jennifer Jordan and Knut Hannes, who shared with us their insights about the subjects they teach in the program. And this week, as part of our efforts to increase gender diversity, we have 31 women in the class this year. We've already doubled the number of applications compared to this time last year. I have with me two of our wonderful alumnae, Beatrice and Joyce. Thank you very much for being here, who will share with you their experience, their MBA experience, why they chose IMD, their career paths, and perhaps a little bit of their lives with us this afternoon. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. I will pick on one of you, as is now the custom with Zoom, since nobody knows how it went to speak. So perhaps I can start with you, Beatrice, if you tell us a little bit about yourself and certainly where you're calling in from, since we never know. This is the new normal, everybody joining us from all over the world.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm part of the people who went back to work. So I'm now in my office in Bologna, Italy.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah. So I came back a couple of weeks ago, and I'm now completely 100% back to work. So.
Okay. And you did the program in 2017. So you're an alumni from 2017, and you are from Italy, and now you've gone back to work from Italy. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Let me just do a little the short introduction for Joyce as well, and then we'll start with the longer life story part. Joyce, I didn't want to leave you silent for too long. So can you introduce yourself shortly, and then we'll go with the long part.
Sure. I was a candidate for the 2018 cohort, and right now I'm speaking from my home in São Paulo because we're under orders of working from home. So I've been like that for 2 months now.
Okay, right. So, so perhaps you want to start saying a little bit, why did you choose IMD all over from Brazil? Why IMD? What were you looking for? And why did IMD appeal to you?
It's a longish story. So
Beatrice, you need to be patient, okay?
No problem.
I always joke that I can tell the story in 30 seconds, 2 minutes, or either an hour. So
not the hour. Can we go for the other option? Option
right.
A. Yeah.
No, but I'm a medical doctor by training. So, and then I went to medical residency. I graduated in ophthalmology. I had 2 fellowships and cornea and cataract surgery. So I was practicing as a surgeon when I quit practice to go to IMD.
Why an MBA even before we go to IMD? Why an MBA?
Yeah, so short reason,
yes.
I was bored.
Okay.
I was bored. So the routine for a doctor is very much the same every single day. So I was seeing patient in, patient out, the same diseases, performing the same surgeries like twice a week. And at some point I just needed something else to develop myself. I have never been one of those doctors that wanted to get a PhD. I was a bit of a weird. I liked more managerial positions. So I was a coordinator of foundation. I was responsible for a large team of 30 doctors. I was the chief of a medical residency in a large hospital here in Brazil. So I always liked more of that side of healthcare rather than being in practice every day. So that's one of the reasons that I left practice and pursued an MBA.
Okay, and then you found IMD. How did you find it? Why? And why? Yeah, why did you enroll? Why did you decide to apply?
So I had a peculiar family situation. My husband was in Vevey for a 1-year assignment with his employer, which is Nestle, and he was supposed to come back, that kind of stuff, but we decided not to do that. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Europe and get an MBA degree. And I visited 2 or 3 schools, and one of them was IMD. And I just fell in love with it. It was like the small cohort. I felt like I would be able to get closer to people. I felt that I would get more chances of meeting the professors and having a closer connection with them. So that was one side of it. Another point was that IMD cohorts tend to be a bit older than most MBAs. So I thought that I would be more at home with people that had similar life experiences than I had. The third point was definitely leadership.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute. So I'm going to hand over the virtual mic to Beatrice. Beatrice, do you want to tell us about a little bit about your story? Where were you before the MBA, and why an MBA and why IMD?
Yeah, sure. So I have like a similar story in the sense of I was doing something different before the MBA. I was not at all in the economic sector. I have a background in political science, and I started my career and went over for 5 years working in public affairs and institutional work. So I was in Sao Paulo. That was my first important experience at the Italian embassy, working with supporting Italian industry in Brazil, but still very institutional work. And then I moved to Brussels, where I worked for 3 years in a lobby, and I was mostly handling European dossiers on health and nutrition. So this was my background when I decided I want to switch, and I wanted to, first, it was a knowledge perspective of really getting some knowledge to move to the business and industry side. And second was a lot by also want a personal growth moment. And I heard amazing experiences of people that went towards this process of an MBA and really developed new skills, new knowledge about themselves. And that for sure was something that was very interesting for me. So this was mainly the ideas. Then how did I move on with the research? First, I knew that my focus was mostly Europe. I wanted to still be, I'm Italian, and I wanted to still be not too far from home. And within Europe, I started really gathering information of all the best schools. And I came to IMD because I had personal recommendation of really good friends of mine who had feedback from other friends who went to IMD. I had the experience to speak to people from IMD, and a bit like what we're doing now. You know, Marcella, I call you first.
Yes.
Really, like, first person I spoke was you. And,
I remember, yes, I remember. I remember we had quite a few calls.
Yeah, a few calls. You were very supportive. And yeah, it was a bit what Joyce was saying. I felt in love. I felt in love with the school. First of all, like with the people, the energy I felt from the people I was talking to when I came to the school, the campus, the amazing setting. And I don't know, it felt really right. And mostly on the, I would say, didactical side, learning side, for sure, what Joyce said at the end, leadership, and especially like the kind of cut this MBA has on personal growth could respond to the second priority I had. And these were really mainly the reason I love the school. Plus, and we could go to what happened next in the few questions that will follow. But I have a family business background, and for sure, for those who have the similar background, IMD is worldwide known for their study and the school on family business. So for me, that was another very good point.
Important point. And so both of you fell in love with the school, and that's one of the things that unfortunately at the moment we can't offer, you know, and that's why we're doing everything so virtual, because I think it really is, it's always been important, and we always advise it to everyone to come and visit us and really get that feeling that take part in a day with us, sit in a class, eat at the restaurant. But unfortunately, we've had to put that on hold for the moment, but not forever, thank God. So let's get back to leadership. Last live chat that we had was with Jennifer Jordan, the leadership stream professor. So those attendees that were there know a little bit about that, having attended the live chat, but I'm sure there are some who aren't. So can you perhaps tell us a little bit about what leadership was for you? What did you get out of it? Is there anything concrete that you got out of it? What was your experience perhaps with that lens of the program? Maybe we could go back to Joyce.
Okay.
Should I? So I went to visit this school actually in 2016. So end of 2016, Marcella was my host.
Yeah, again. I've always
You're always the one.
Yeah, and I think I see in the names of the list of participants, I also see a couple of names that I recognize that I've had dealings with. So welcome to those of you who know who you are, who've been in touch with me. I also wanna just do another logistical parenthesis. If anyone has any questions, you can start typing them now so that I have them under my eyes, and I can also feed them to Joyce and Beatrice as we go along, or we can keep them to the end depending on how the flow goes. So I invite you all to put your questions in. Right, Joyce, now you and leadership and 2016 visit.
Yeah, so and Marcella told me about PD, which is the personal development elective, and how we got to have our own psychoanalysts, to have sessions every 15 days. And I'm like, which school does that, right? This is super expensive, getting those analysts for us, and no one does that. It's like something that the school does for our benefit. And I think it told that a lot about the school I wanted to join. And this was a huge factor on my decision. So for those that who are not super familiar of how leadership stream work during the program, so leadership stream is the only one that runs for the whole year. And I normally joke that it's the backbone of the program. So everything happens around leadership stream. And for me, it was like a safety net to discuss and to understand all of those experiences, because the program is super hard. We're always working in teams, which brings a lot of experiences and things that we have to understand and deal with. And aside of that, we had the PD. So actually, fun story, I have kept my PD and I still have sessions with him.
And now from Brazil. No.
So we're doing Zoom sessions.
Amazing, amazing. And so that obviously has left you that maybe that thirst and that almost that need to really go deeper in whatever issue you might be facing. Because the other beautiful thing about the personal development elective, these analysts, there's no limit to the scope of the conversations and subjects
Exactly.
that you can address in these very, very confidential sessions. We don't know what happens, you know, there's no report, they don't come to the office and tell us, you know, Joyce and we talked about this today. So it's very much that cocooned kind of safe space that a lot of the participants also talk about, that creating that, not just within the PD, but also within the class, you know, in the smaller class, creating that space for you to test new things, try out new things, go mad and then come back again, and that just really have that security and that benevolence. I'd say in French, there's a really good word, that sort of safety, I can't think of any other way of saying it, that allows you really to go out of your comfort zone. So keep the comfort, you know, keep the cushions, but actually go out of your zone to experiment. Would you agree, Beatrice, or how was your experience of leadership?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Joyce and you just said. I would also add, if Jennifer Jordan is the teacher now at the MBA, we had two at the time. I really recommend her because she's an amazing teacher. Right. So you're very lucky if you're joining in the next year as the MBA. And so yeah, I had a similar experience in the sense of one is people telling you what's going to happen, as we are trying to do now. One is to live it. And I can tell you it's a roller coaster in all sense. It's really an intense experience if you want to live it as such. But normally I really probably found few people, if almost none, really not changing at some point their perspective on something. Even the most skeptical, the ones who didn't want the PD, because it's something that you can choose to have and choose not to have. And there are people who are feeling very uncomfortable, and I would say almost all of them regretted at the end, because it's something that it's a plus, and it's really what helps you to analyze what's happening in the class with the teacher, by yourself. So I would suggest to really take the PD. And no, I think already everything has been said. It's super well structured. There are modules, very regular modules, all made and already tested to bring you into a journey. And although at the beginning it seems really unsafe, at the end they know already the end. So it's something that you really have to trust the school. And you will see how, for me, it's what really transformed me. It's not knowledge on finance or I would say strategy.
Perhaps we don't, Beatrice, perhaps we don't want to say that too loudly in case Arturo, Salvatore, anyone is listening. Yes. Perhaps you want to say.
No, but that's all things that you can find elsewhere. Exactly. And I'm sure they were amazing, but what really made the difference is, I think, is that personal experience, and that's something that I can find, and I only found in IMD and speaking to people who did this experience. And I had friends in all over the world, all over the places doing MBAs. So that's it.
I think. Sorry, Joyce. I just wanted to add that.
I would add just one tiny bit.
Yeah.
So, and IMD is very much geared towards creating leadership, like leaders for the world, wherever we end up at some point. And one of the things that most people do not understand is that understanding yourself and building self-awareness is a huge part what are going to make us good leaders in the future, or when we leave the school, that depends a lot. So that's why we always talk a lot about leadership stream and PTE, because this is what differentiates us from other schools.
Mm-hmm.
in my
And I
opinion.
And I think I wanted to add two things. One is that Sean, our dean, he loves saying that it's an MBA program, but it's actually a transformational journey. And then there's an MBA toolkit thrown in as well.
Exactly.
So really, I just want to add what Beatrice was saying. And then secondly, I think also this whole discussion, leadership, self-awareness, going inside, I think has been also very crucial now this year. Especially for the challenging circumstances in which our MBAs have been going through the program. And I think it's been a big chunk of their reflections moving forward. So definitely thank you for putting the emphasis on that. I have a question that perhaps we can also use as an opportunity to carry on the conversation. Laura from Spain says, can you talk about school clubs? And then she also asks about recruitment events. Recruitment events, perhaps I will answer at the end, but perhaps we want to talk about school clubs. How is life, private life, organized? Are there clubs? Are there, some of them we call them clusters. Can you talk a little bit about that? I don't know.
Beatrice?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like already. I would say that IMD MBA, it's a small class. And the benefit of that is that it's always very cohesive, and activities are always, we always did them together. Of course, there were some groups of course, and I know that experience year after year changes. So Marcella, you saw, I think, all types of typology of classes, but my year was very close. Everyone was very close, and activities were always brought together. So more than clubs activity, we of course had people with some interest getting together, discussing some topics. Was most like volunteer clubs. People, sports.
Yeah,
like,
informal. Yeah.
Informal. People, I don't know, like in, what was
marathon.
That?
Remember, there's the 20K. There's always people run the 20K in the
yeah,
the
like running, relating to those kind of sports activities and all of that. But really, what I saw most, it's organized by like together, and school organizes already, like not clubs activities throughout the year, a couple of them, where you can experience, I don't know if you still do it, but at least at my year, we had also activities with the class a couple of times where we went to Italy once, to another place, another one. I don't know if that's still there, but of course, we had some activities, but I wouldn't say specific clubs organized by the school, because it's really an experience you handle all together. The rhythm is super intense. You have a lot of things to do for classes, modules, workshop, and that's already enough.
Yeah. Joyce, do you want to add to the bits where Beatrice said, I don't know if you still do that, the activities that we organized? Do you want to add for last year? Oh, 2 years ago, sorry.
Yeah, so 2018. No, I fully agree with Beatrice. So if you're in a program like with 600 candidates, or a few have even 1,000, so it's really hard for people to find others with common interests. And at IMD, we're just 90. So we get to know each other very easily. It's easier for us to understand who has common interests. So I don't think we quite needed the clubs, because we could manage to organize those in an informal way. Mm-hmm. And the good thing about it is that we could just do absolutely everything. It didn't matter. Like, we didn't need to fit into a structure of a club. Mm-hmm. So I fully agree with Beatrice. And we had like all of these experiences. So in my year, our first trip was to Chamonix. It was amazing. The whole 90 of us in Chamonix just doing like snowshoeing for the weekend. So it was amazing. So that's one side. So one thing that we do have are the clusters. But the clusters have an objective more of preparing candidates for job interviews and to help candidates connect with recruiters and get material to prepare. So consulting cluster was basically trying to get us to know people in consulting and getting us materials to prepare for case interviews.
Okay, so and also that's really that there's a sort of, like you said, a professional structure, professional flavor to that. The other clubs are very much revolving around interest, and then they mushroom up according to each year, each class, whether it's like Beatrice was saying, sports based or music based, or mostly sports. I think that's really what a lot of people are motivated to join up to do together because of the lack of time, and then they sort of leave. Yeah, they leave the rest. I think partying as well, but we don't want to really advertise that. So right. So well, before I forget, I don't want to leave aside your sharing about your career switch. So you did the program, you went through it. So what happens? It's now 3 years ago for Beatrice and 2 years ago for Joyce, and a bit. So what happened after the MBA?
Yeah,
maybe back to Beatrice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first, when I had to choose, I was still not feeling a strong connection to any specific business. So it was my experience. I knew at the end I wanted to probably join the family business, but I still was not ready for that. I wanted to deepen my knowledge in economics and business. So this was a bit what I felt as need or as interest when I started thinking what to do next. So I was not one of those people who start doing all kinds of interviews from, I don't know, operation in Amazon to finance in, I don't know which company. I was really like, at the end, my response was, I want to do consulting. And because I felt it was a good period in between my career switch and what was happening next. Either as I didn't know if I wanted to launch my own company or join the family business company at the time. So I said that's a good structure, good next step. And I joined McKinsey. So you will experience, for those who are interested in consulting, all the major consulting, of course, recruiting from IMD, and I decided to join McKinsey. And I joined McKinsey in Italy because the other need I had at the time was I want to go back to Italy. And so I joined McKinsey in Italy when, after a few months, I took a few months break, and that was the wiser thing ever I did, because after 1 year IMBA, remember these words, take some time off. The word doesn't stop. As you saw also from probably the coronavirus experience, it's sometimes healthy just to take a time for ourselves. And I went for 2 months in India. But I came back and I had a job waiting for me, or I secured during the MBA. And I joined, and I was there for about a year when a very big project started in the family business about strategy and turnaround of some of the divisions, which I found super interesting and very in line with what I was doing for other clients at McKinsey. So after a while, a bit more than a year, I decided to switch again and join the family business, where today I'm in the strategy department of the company, and I'm handling topics which were familiar in McKinsey. So that was so far is what I've been doing.
Okay. And funnily enough, all the way to the other side in Brazil, Joyce is with McKinsey as well.
That's why I was like, huh?
Yeah. So do you want to share a little bit about your switch and
yeah,
what
sure.
happened in the last 2 and a bit years?
yeah, so I thought it was important for me to look into more, all of it, like what is it out there. But in the end, you need to sort of make a decision to sort of narrow your scope, so you do not have to prepare for, I don't know, 4 or 5 different types of interviews in different industries. So I was looking into going to medtech. I didn't want to do pharma for several reasons, and consulting as well, because I had a lot of friends who had gone to McKinsey. I had a lot of friends who were consultants. And like, you know what? This seems like a lot of fun. So I had an offer when I finished my MBA, I had an offer to stay in Switzerland with a medtech company. I had 2 offers in Brazil from consulting firms. One of them was McKinsey. So I'm actually married, so we have to manage 2 careers at home. So I had to make a decision in terms of what would work for me and my husband in that year and in the long term. I was not super happy with my offer from the medtech company. It was not quite what I wanted to do. And my husband was moving to New Jersey for a new assignment. And we agreed that when going to McKinsey would be a better experience in terms of my development, in terms of like having fun, meeting people, doing different stuff. And in the long term would give me better chances of going to New Jersey, be it with the firm or if I left McKinsey. So that's one of the reasons that I joined McKinsey, and I have been with the firm for 1 year and 2 months now.
And so where's your husband now? Where's Helder? Is he in McKinsey? I mean, sorry, is he in New Jersey? Is he in Nestle and Bebe? He's here. No.
He's in New Jersey.
Right.
Okay. On his new assignment. So, and we're stuck in different countries because of that.
And no, on top of that, because of Corona, you're completely stuck. Right.
Yes.
Okay. I have one question that might be interesting to address is, are you still connected with your class peers? You know, how's the bond with the class been, you know, since graduating?
So the bond, it's still, yeah, again, going back, but just to keep some of the key things which are really a strength of IMD. The class is small. And during the year, also because of the leadership path and all the things you show during that path, your weakness, your issues, your problem, your joys, is like all together, you get really into deep connection with a lot of people. And even those ones who you will cross during your career or around the world, but you will never think about getting that close. But these programs help you to get close in a really deep way. And that shows after the MBA too, because of course, nowadays we have the fantastic WhatsApp, which helps us with a group to keep like, I would say, like, if not every day, every couple of days, there is a conversation going on about no matter what topics, from successes of different classmates, from, I don't know, articles, what's happening in IMD, really all diverse topics that keep us really connected. Plus, all the connections you have while traveling for your work, plus, as Yukari is asking, also the connection to professional world. So if you need an insight from India, I now know who to speak to. If you need an insight, I don't know, from whatever, we had a Botswana, we had 48 countries, and I've been living in 10 countries in my life, and I can tell you that really expanded my connection almost, yeah, to a third of the world countries. So that for sure is very strong. Okay.
Joyce, do you want to add your experience about the network and the bonds post-MBA, and maybe even during, like Beatrice said?
I think there are exactly 2 sides of all this bonding that we have in IMD. So first is during the program, of course, we get closer to some people rather than others, so that it happens. But one thing that I saw that I was not expecting was when it was coming close to interviews and we were all job hunting, and people were always willing to help others find connections and get interviews. So let me give you an example. So I was very much trying to go into consultant, and we had this friend who was from Oliver Wyman, and I was not super close with her, but she actually opened her network for me to get an interview, for me to get a connection with a partner in an office where I was interested in going. So this is the kind of thing that you can expect from IMD colleagues during the program. So that's one thing. So, and after the program, I have very close friends who I still speak to on almost a daily basis. So, and on the other side, there is it. So whenever one of us is traveling, we drop a message, oh, who's in, I don't know, Rome, who's in France, who's in Paris, do you want to grab coffee? And so that's one thing that I find super interesting. And also what Beatrice said. So if I need to learn something about Pakistan, we have a friend from Pakistan, and I can drop him a message, you know what, I need to learn what's happening there. Tell me a bit of this and that. And people are always gonna help you. I never heard a no from a colleague from my class.
And also, I'd say even the wider IMD network, I mean, you have access to the wider MBA alumni database or just community, and so the same could also happen. I mean, even when I reached out, I mean, I know both of you, but still I'm amazed at how quickly I get, yeah, no problem, count on me, and I'm like, oh, wow, amazing. So it's also tribute to the fact that the class is so small, the community is quite small, so you end up knowing everybody else, you end up knowing the professors, you end up knowing the staff, you end up knowing the alumni, the executives that come on campus, the speakers. Everything is so much more downsized, if you like. So obviously the connections are deeper and take a little bit less time to get to the crux of the other. There's one question that it's a particular one is, have you seen women with young children in the program, and how's life for them? Do you, Joyce, do you remember anyone in your year that had a small child?
I'm trying to remember. So so Damini had 2 small children, right?
No, Damini had one. She had one.
She was managing like the program, which is super tough.
Yeah.
With raising her baby.
Yeah.
And her husband was there. So
yeah.
It's not easy, but one of the things is that IMD involves the partners a lot in our day-to-day lives. So we were having happy hours with the class and the partners. It was super common for that to happen. Mm-hmm. So I think that the partners who were basically doing most of the childcare had a lot of support from the other partners or significant others. Mm-hmm.
I think that's, if I can just add to that, I think that is what I would answer. I think it is doable. We've had over different years, women MBA, so mothers who are doing the program and bring their small children or their small child with them. It is doable, yet you do have to have a support system that takes care of that child, you know, a separate carer, a separate full-time carer for that child. Having said that, the community is small. There are quite a few partners that come to Lausanne, quite a few families. I mean, you mentioned yourself, Joyce, you were there with your husband. There are quite a few people that come in couples or that have a child or 2, or they expect a child or their second child. So it is a very common composition. However, the program is tough and it is a little bit all over the place. So it is very much for you to count on the other person, that it could be a grandparent. You know, with Damini, for example, her husband was also working full time, but they were able to have the sets of grandparents come in and take take the rota system on them. So as long as you can ensure that support, then Lausanne is a very small city compared to many other cities in the world. Everything is reachable on foot. You have mom and baby groups. You could go to the lake, you could go to the swimming pool, to the park. So life for children is easy. And campus has some moments that are dedicated to family. We have the partner room, which is also family and partner room. We have partner lunches, where once a month families are invited to have lunch with us on campus. During the breaks, you know, it's very common to see in the foyer, you know, outside in the grassy area, to have children waiting onto their parents, that they come out in breaks. I remember, because I was a partner myself, my husband, we were here in 2003 and we had 2 small children. Now it's not the same as having, you know, as doing the MBA with children, with very, very small children that perhaps you need to feed. So that's a different setup. But I remember we would go to the swimming pool that is opposite IMD, and then we would wait for dad to come and have a picnic with us, and then he'd go back after lunch to class. So because of the smallness of the city, then obviously there's a lot more that can be squeezed in to keep that connection between the parents and the children. Beatrice, did you want to add anything from 2017? I don't remember offhand.
We had 3 women with kids.
Okay.
More kids. I would say between 2, 1.5. One had to postpone the year because she was pregnant. She knew she was pregnant before coming to IMD, so she postponed 1 year. And yeah, I would agree really on what you said about the support there are, and the difference I also seen in the different couples according to how they were able to communicate with their partners, able to ask for support, able to really be honest, because I saw for all the couples there, so it's intense, and the time dedicated to the other person, it's really, really, really like constrained, I would say. So it's all about how the couple works, and I would say the same goes with the kid.
And managing expectation, I was going to add.
Yeah, you handle those kind of partner groups, so you know all the cases. But I would agree, the MBA, as every personal growth in your life, shows like the couple is kind of a mirror. So if you get to MBA with huge problem in the couple, then it will show them. If you get to MBA and you are a solid couple, I saw no problems at the end. Really, there were couples ending that super well and couples ending bad. As families, the same.
I think it's a bit like COVID, right? If you were it kind of exploded in these 3 months confinement. We have a question on careers, but the next live chat on the 11th of June is going to be with one of the directors from the Career Development Center, so I don't want to preempt any of the answers there. So I'm going to take another question from Jonathan, who has a question for Beatrice. Let me read that. As an ex-co-founder yourself before the MBA, what were the 1-2 entrepreneurial skills that the program helped you work on, that helped you in your professional career, and now that you're back in the family business?
Yeah, so there are a few moments. So there is one specific class on entrepreneurship, but then there is another kind of connected class which is on innovation, and I guess you are still handling those classes. I don't know much.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I would say that are the 2 experiences which are mostly connected to entrepreneurship. And I definitely found those experiences very interesting, because on the class side, you have, of course, cases, which is a bit the MBA method of handling cases, but then you have very often, I don't know if it's still the same professor, but meeting entrepreneurs, meeting ex-alum.
Yeah, sorry. There's Benoit, who is always there, and the startup project are still a core part of
The startup project. Yeah, it's true, it's true. And so the professor itself, you get to meet a lot of entrepreneurs from IMD, which always provide you very interesting insights. There is the also it's true the startup the program of startups, which is supporting a startup in a need of development or a need of really needs could really change, and you get to know how they work. But for me, that as a co-founder was less of a novelty in the kind of startup world, but still I guess for the people who never work in that environment is very helpful. There are a lot of supports also from alum, because there is a very, and now I forgot the name, Marcella, if you remember, but there is an alum club.
ACE?
ACE, yeah, where there are pitches of entrepreneurs coming to Lausanne, but all over the world, in other countries, even in Italy, they organize that, where they pitch their business, and you get also their feeling of that kind of part, which is a starting point of any business. Very interesting. And then I love the innovation side, because as an entrepreneur, once you start, you really have to innovate. Innovate doesn't mean inventing, I don't know, the moon, but it means getting a new angle on something. So either it's new itself, or you bring a kind of innovation to it. And that intense program was, I think, with the leadership, one of the best ones we had. And it was 1 week of intense work on innovating and creating something new. Mm-hmm. And you get to know all the community around startups supporting the beginning of a startup. So that was also very positive.
Joyce, is there anything you want to add to that, to the entrepreneurship stream? The entrepreneurship experience, the startup experience, is there anything you want to add?
I think that Beatrice covered most of it. So I would just like to emphasize that, like, we were working for 3 months with a startup, and investing a lot of time with them.
And that's your first, that's also your first consulting experience, you know, before you go into the international consulting projects, which in lingo we call the ICP. So before you go into the ICP mode, where you're back in your suits and ties and, you know, in a super smart attire, the startup is kind of your first, if you're getting your hands dirty at the beginning of the program as to what it's like to accompany a company in their next phase, or in whatever scope their project that they need help on.
And I would say, even as an experience, we had, I don't know if it's 2018, but we have a very successful entrepreneur, Matthew Costello, who created a startup which is really he went on Bloomberg TV, like a lot, he's part of those WhatsApp of like, wow, you are a star. So we also saw it during our year, really the starting of an entrepreneur, and I'm sure there will be many more coming in the future.
So one of the teams in my class was actually working with a founder from Beatrice's class.
So probably he was the one.
So yeah, isn't that super interesting? Because as alumni, they get to apply to get help on the startup program. So we were working with our alumni.
Absolutely, and that happened last year as well, as in at the beginning of this year, sorry, that they applied, and there's a couple of projects that went through the startup beginning cycle that belong to alumni. So that connection always is kept alive from 1 year to the next, and even between multiple years, because the one that I'm talking about, the alum were from 2008, and they're only able to dedicate their time to their dream now, to 12 years on. So the bond sort of is never broken. I have, I think we can say maybe a last question, or maybe two. So Ravi asks, of both of you, did you already know that you wanted to go into consulting as your first step post MBA, or did that sort of evolve as the year evolved?
So in my case, it came at some point while really. So at the beginning, as a suggestion, really, if you're going to join IMD, I would say keep it open, keep all the options open. Just be there and look at the present. I knew a lot of people just worrying about the future, what to do next from day one. I would suggest start this adventure, and at some point you will get the answers. And this is how I did, and I think at the beginning I was really, as I said, I don't know if I'm going to create my own company, join the family business, or something else. Let's see. And at some point it came out what I was telling you before of consulting, in my view, makes sense as a next step, not as a long career for me, but as a next step to consolidate my new background, my new skills.
I think if I understand correctly, what I would say is trust the process. I mean, the career development center, the career development team, they know what they're doing, and they've organized it in a way that it's a progression, it's a development. That's why it's called a career development center, is that you start with looking at the tools that you bring into the program. What are your skills? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What have you done? You know, what's on your CV? How do we present it? How do we present it differently, much more in a more concise way? So by going sort of back to basics, you kind of go a little bit deeper into just, oh, let me just get a job. You know, you start from building the house from the foundations, and then by the time it comes to putting the window in, or putting the new door, then you can say, okay, I want the ones with the golden handles, or I want the ones with the blue frame, whatever. But I think if you can let yourself a little bit go into that, trusting that whatever we have set up for you has a logic to it, has a plan. We have a plan. And so if you can let yourself be taken by that plan, I think at some point, once you've done the groundwork, at some point it will be time to kind of go with it, and then you'll know. And I think also what you said at the beginning, you said you didn't apply to this, to that, to this, to that. And I think that's testimony to that. Once you come to the point where it's time to apply, if you've done the groundwork, if you've built your foundations, you don't need to shoot in every direction, because you already know clearly if you're going here, here, or here, or or exactly what is important for you. Would you add something to that, Joyce, or would you agree?
I agree. And for me, when I joined the program, consulting was an option, but I was not sure if that was really for me. As I said, I had a few friends who had gone to consulting. I'm like, I'm not sure that's gonna work. And during the program, as I understood myself, as I found out what were my drives and the things that were going to be happy, and sort of have an idea of where I wanted to land in 5 or 10 years time, I discovered that consulting would be a lot of fun because of the way I work, of what I wanted to do. And I thought it was going to be a better fit in terms of my personality. And it would give me the experience that I would require, be it if I want to go back to industry, or if I want to stay in consulting, or whatever. I don't know.
So for me, that shows that instead of looking at the destination, I want consulting, I know that I want consulting, was why, what would be the right steps if in 5 years time, 10 years time, this is where I want to be, this is what I would like to do. You were saying, if I know my drivers, if I know the way I work, if I know that I'm somebody who's flexible, who loves to travel, who likes to have different scopes of projects constantly with different industries, then perhaps the obvious question, what Beatrice was saying, you'll find the answer just because by having done the analysis, then the option that comes at the end is sort of obvious. Instead of just going, I don't know, consulting makes sense because it makes sense on paper, and then perhaps you hate working in the way that consultants work because that doesn't fit with your type. So I think really use the year also to explore possibilities. There will be consultants in the class. There'll be alumni that are consultants that come in as speakers. They're mentors. They could be they are involved in the program, and so that's also your opportunity to find out if what you think you want is really what you want. So I think I would put it that way.
Just one and another side that we always talk about, like choosing industries and not enough about choosing companies. So not only you need to think the industry you want to join, but you need to do your research and understand the culture of the firm or the company you're joining. Because we might think that consulting companies are all the same, but we're not. The way McKinsey works is very much different from the way BCG works. And if you're joining MedTech, it depends on the culture. So do your homework and understand if that culture is the right one for you.
And I think both Julia and Natalia would love you for saying that, because I think it is very much about doing your homework, putting that time in to lay those very strong foundations. Talk to the alum, use the network, use the speakers, use each other in the class to really dig deep, so that when you reach out exactly, instead of just reaching out roughly, maybe, perhaps, that could fit. So I think, and that then goes back to what Beatrice was saying, I think it is an intense program also because you're asked to do a lot of this groundwork, and careers will have put, how do you call them, like benchmark, how do you call them, sort of placeholders, during the year where you're expected to have done your work, and to show that you've done that work. So they will be on your back constantly to make sure that you have done the right steps before you go to market. Ladies, we have no more questions, and we have run out of time because we're supposed to go 45 minutes. But it was lovely to chat with you, and I hope that our attendees also enjoyed your experience. I'm going to send you a personal note to say thank you again. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and to everyone listening.
Yeah,
for sharing.
It was my pleasure.
It was nice. I think it was still very cozy. We're getting thank yous on the chats there, so I think it was very much appreciated. It's recorded, so for those who weren't able to attend, I will send the recording. We have another live chat on the 11th of June on careers, and then on the 25th of June on admissions tips in preparation for the July 1st deadline. If you are applying, please make sure that you get back to us with any questions that you have. You can write to mbainfo@imd.org or mbaapplication@imd.org, and also don't forget always to refer to our website, especially now with the COVID situation changing week per week. Anything that changes, we'll update it. Yes, Joyce, you want to add something?
Yeah, and look at the MBA blog.
Yes, absolutely. Do your research.
It's amazing. It's like it gives a good perspective on what life at IMD looks like.
Exactly. We have bloggers this year are really they're really motivated to write about their experience, especially during these times. So absolutely follow us on social media. And if you have any questions about also scholarships for women and just application deadline, then absolutely do get back to us. Beatrice and Joyce, it was a real pleasure seeing you again. Please come and visit us when everything is open again. And I wish you the best, Joyce, for a lovely day ahead of you, and Beatrice for a lovely end of the day and evening. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.